Hello and welcome, Katie here from Eastwick's Paper and Ink. Thanks so much for joining me on the Imagine Crafts YouTube channel. Today we're going to make a wedding card, and of course you can use this for anything, but this month's theme, one of them is weddings, so I thought I would do a really simple wedding card. The products we're going to use are some VersaFine Clair inks, and we're going to do a bit of ink blending on our floral images. And as we go through the colors we get to each one, I'll go through those. But we're also going to use a little Brilliance Moonlight White ink. I've got the Shimmer Stix Dauber in Frost, and we've got some blending brushes. The florals that I'm going to use are the Botanicut Lily from the Greetery, and also the Ruscus Die, also from the Greetery. And then I'm going to pull the Wedding Day Blessings from the, what is it, the Sentiment Sweet Love from the Greetery. And we're going to throw on a little frame. It's going to look like this, basically. And then you've got the crimped edges there. That's from Honeybee Stamps, as you can see. And then that is the Layering Vintage Labels. We're going to use the Tufted 3D embossing folder from Spellbinders, and we're going to use a background stamp, a script text to give us a little bit more interest. Now I went ahead and colored, move some of these inks out of the way. I went ahead and colored two of the flowers. We're going to make one here on camera, really simple. And then also the leaves, I did 2 of those. We need another one of those. So we're going to color those on camera, but it is a little time consuming, I'm not going to lie. So that's why I did 2 of each off camera, to save us a little bit of time. So let me grab our floral. Now I just keep my lily die all together. So all these pieces are attached to the die, and it just makes it a lot easier. You don't have little bits and pieces that you've got to worry about trying to find. And it does come, let me grab this die for you and show you, because it does have 2 different, let's put it on the bottom there. I keep grabbing everything but that. So it's got 2 different, and of course you have a bud there, but it's got 2 different florals. So I'm going to take the larger, and I need my stamens, and then we'll just put all these back in a pile. And then, you know, I keep the bits and pieces to be able to have, you know, later on when I want to make more stuff. Okay, so for this I'm going to use Summertime and Charming Pink. And I've got 2 little blending brushes. I find these work best because they give a little bit more control of, you know, for when we're blending these smaller pieces. And I'm also going to use this is a watercolor brush from Princeton. It's the Velvet Touch brush, and it's a blender brush, but it actually, I don't know if you might be able to hear it. I'll put it in front of the microphone. It's kind of reminds me of like a hog bristle brush. They're stiff and firm, but it's great for being able to stipple on, and that's what we're going to do to give a little bit of detail. So let's get going on this coloring here. Make sure all my cameras are going. And I do dab off. I get that ink off. I don't want it to be so stark because I do want it to be soft and build up the color. So I'm just going to start blending it on. Now the thing with this die is, of course, we got some layering pieces here, these 3 layering pieces. So anywhere that you see a score line, bring that up and show you, you see the score lines, you're not going to add those pieces. It's the blank pieces that you're going to put those on. So those you want to be careful of when you're adding on your ink. Keep it light, because you don't want to build too much. We're going to take it a little bit at a time as we add each of the colors. And so I'm going to do the same here. And it's hard to tell. I'm not really putting a ton of pressure on this. I'll do it on my hand, show you. I'm just brushing it, you know, gliding it across to put that ink on. That way it's not too harsh and we can keep it soft. Now the thing about any blending brush is that it's always going to give you a more softer color payoff versus a foam blender tool. So that's just something to keep in mind. And there's videos that I've shown blending with eyeshadow brushes. So you don't, if all you've got is, you know, like a foam makeup brush or eyeshadow brushes or something like that, use those to be able to get a softer, or really dab the ink off if all you have is foam. Can be done. You just, there is a difference in all the tools. They're not just to market for, you know, make people spend more money. There is a purpose to a brush versus foam. Okay, so I've got my orange down. I'm going to cover that for a second. And I want to come in with my Charming Pink. Same thing. Going to dip it in and dab it off. And I always like to come from the bottom to add that color to keep everything softer and build it up. Now, when I put the pink on, I come back over with the orange and blend it in. That's going to give us that peachy color. And I am using some hot press watercolor paper. This one is from Altenew, but I also love the Strathmore 500 series. I actually had never tried the Altenew, so I've been trying to use that and try it out and see before pulling out my Strathmore 500 paper. And Arches is good too. But I do like the hot pressed because it doesn't have any texture to it. Cold press will work without a doubt. It's the same, it's just got more texture to it. And I'm just kind of scraping and gliding across to give some detail to the edge, and we'll go around and add some more detail to that with our other watercolor brush there. I'm going to do the big parts first. It's kind of a little process. You do a little bit of one and then you add a little bit of the other and use the different tools and stuff. So it is a process, but I think the end result is worth it. And the other thing I really like about the watercolor paper is it does sit on the top of the paper. It not to the point where you're going to stick your finger there and you're going to have a splotch, but enough to be able to keep the ink moving until you're finished. Okay, grab just a little bit more orange in that center there. Okay. Start from the bottom. And another reason to start from the bottom too is it allows you to build that color to make it darker. You always kind of want it darker towards the ends and the bottom, and then keeping it light up towards the top. All right. Come in on the bottom there again. Just see how those two colors blend really nice to give a peachy color. All right. Set that off, and I'm going to come in with our Charming Pink and the same thing. Just going to add just a little bit. This will, as we put the piece together, and I'll show you that here in a second, is when I'll start really adding the detail and color into this base. Okay. All right. So before I put that together, let's do some of our center detail. And again, I'm going to start from the bottom, and I'm just stippling this on. I do tap off because if you don't, it's going to be bold. Not a problem. But if you don't want it to be, and you want it to be a nice soft fade up, definitely tap off. Make sure you can see that. And I like to just add a little bit of the stippling technique around, and it adds just enough little detail to the petal. And I'll bring that up because I'm not sure how close the camera really is down there. It always seems further away when I'm looking at a different monitor to make sure everything's working. Okay. And as you come up, you just kind of fade it off. Now, still going to add in some orange. Ink is still wet, so it allows it to soften a little bit. And I'll come back in and add just a little bit more to deepen that up a little bit. Okay. I'm actually going to set this on here as I get each piece done, because that's going to help me get my colors to go a little bit closer together once I get all these center pieces done. And I do try to go in and pick that extra ink up and use it. So don't forget about that if it's on your surface. Again, gonna add a little bit of stuff on the sides. Okay. And if you've got a sticky mat or something, you can certainly do that. Use one of those for this. I just, these little pieces, I don't want to pull one out. And this, you can see here, that's actually going to get folded back. But I find that I get the right color fade if I take it from the back like I've been, the bottom piece there, and stipple up. Come on the sides a little bit. And those score lines really do help to kind of give you a guide on where to place your stippling to give that additional detail. Okay, so I'm going to tuck these in. Actually, not tuck them in yet. I just lay them on. And then I can start working on the rest of the detail on these other pieces. It's not an exact science because we're not glued down or tucked in or anything, but it gives me an idea of where I need to add additional color. And then once I get everything glued down, I'll add more. We'll add some shading in other spots as we get there. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is take those off. So I know already that I need to use my score lines as my guide to add in the stippling. And of course, you don't have to use VersaFine Clair inks. Just use your, color theory. You got, I've got orange and pink that I'm using. So anything with that color combination is going to work. Use what you've got. Don't need to go out and buy anything new. Just going to come and dab in on the outside. We need a little bit more orange. Not a ton, but I do find that it helps to blend them. get that stuff in there. Actually, can use that to add in our pink. And I'm just scrubbing along the edge to pick up the edge, to grab the ink on the edge there to give a little bit more definition and detail. And I will do the same thing with the orange. It's easier to see it on this petal because there's more white on it. And it really is a very back and forth thing. So these, for me, this is all preference, right? How you want to do it, what looks good to you, when you want to stop, when it's too light, when it's too dark, that kind of thing. I'm just coloring it how I liked it. So that's what I'm showing you today, but certainly do what feels good to you. Okay, I'm gonna add a little color here on the edges. And this is a blending brush, so you could scrub it on that way too. Okay. Let's throw these on and see what else we need. I think right now I'm going to tuck them in though. That way they'll be in their place, and if I got to really get into some nooks and crannies, I'll know where I got to go with it. Now this card design I actually made last year. I didn't post it on any social media or anything. I made as a sympathy card. So this, you know, will lend itself to whatever you need it to. The only difference is that I didn't ink blend the flowers. I used my polychromos and colored them in. Oh, that's pretty close. Like that? Okay. Let's get a little bit more orange down here and a little bit more pink. Like that. Okay. I'm going to do just a little bit more down here. Once we put the stamens in, we won't quite see too much of that, so I want to deepen that a little bit. Okay. I like it. Let's see. Let's glue this together real quick. So once I get them tucked in, this particular flower, I don't take them out. I just leave it. Get everything lined up, and we'll squirt a little glue in there. Use these pointy Q-tips from Wally World. It's a nice thing to clean up the edge of the glue with. All right, gonna get this guy. All right. And if you're a beginner, you can totally still do this. You know, we've got to kind of label these based on what's required to use these. So, you know, it's going to say intermediate because we're die cutting, we're doing a lot of different things. But the reality is, if you just break it down step by step by step, you can do this. Anybody can do it. Okay, let me grab this. Get that out of there. Okay, so next let's do these stamens real quick. And then we'll go through and add in our detail. Okay, so this one is cheerful. Again, just any yellow is going to do. And I'm just stippling it on here. It's a small piece, so I'm just holding it with my fingers. So stippling is easier than, and if you're gonna brush it on like I'm doing right now, one direction. Don't try to go back and forth with it because it's gonna bend up on you. Okay. And we're going to add a little bit of that summertime just from the brushes. We're not even going to dip that in, to soften it up a little bit. Give it a little bit of warmth with that orange. There we go. Nothing fancy. We don't need any extra ink. Just what's already on the brush. Okay. Okay, so one last thing before I take it to the next step. I'm going to use a little pine cone, and I'm going to pull in my Q-tip. You can do this with a regular Q-tip, because when I tested this out to make sure it would work okay, I used a rounded Q-tip downstairs. So I film in my craft studios upstairs, but with my mother-in-law I have to really generally be downstairs a lot, so I just stand at the kitchen counter and bring down what I want and try out my designs and what I'm gonna film, unless it's something totally on the fly. Then I just film it. I haven't been able to do a lot of those lately, but we're getting there. We're getting there. Okay, so we're gonna set that off for a second, and this next step is the fun part. We're gonna use our Sheer Shimmer stick. It's got a dauber top, if you're not familiar with it. These are pretty cool. I'm going to show a Father's Day card this month using the same stick. And I assume, well, it depends on when they post these. I don't know when, that's what order they're going to get posted in. If this will probably come after the Father's Day card, I don't know. Either way, we're going to use it again in a different way, but today than we are in that video. But it's a dauber, so you definitely want to pounce with it. You can probably hear me clicking it where it's banging on the glass there. So nothing fancy here, just bring it up and show you. And then the last step to this next step, I'm going to use a brush stick. These are like foam sponges. But you can do a splatter, with white ink or whatever if you want. But isn't that cool? I like that shimmer. And they have that in, I think, rose gold sheer, the sheer shimmer sparkle. Actually, I got two of them here. So we got two more, sparkle and rose gold. And I think they have one for every spray that they've got. They've got it in a dauber. Okay, so here comes the Brilliance Moonlight White. My favorite ink, my white ink, I should say. It's consistent. It's bright for me. There's a lot of different ones out there, and I guess I didn't really need to dab that off there. Okay, so then I'm just gonna smush it down. But I wanted this subtle. That's why I didn't do splatter and chose to do the sponge. Now, I don't expect a lot of people to have these. In fact, I got the 3-pack years ago in a little kit that they sent me. So I don't have, I've got one of each style, and this is just their pointed tip one. So use a Q-tip if you want to do the same type of technique. Use your rounded Q-tips, and you'll get the same effect. You don't need to go out buying fancy stuff here. I think I want to come in just one more time because I had my finger over this bottom one. There we go. Okay, now let's set that for a second to dry. Gonna get our stamens, and this flower is gonna be done. We're gonna move on to the greenery, and that's really super easy too. You could save some time and use colored cardstock, but this is about inking techniques and stuff like that, so we gotta Got to show all that good stuff. Okay. All right. Tuck that in. Okay, where's my little Q-tip? Okay, I just want to grab some of this glue off here. Off the back. All right, and that's done. Let's compare them to the other. Pretty close. It's not too bad. All right. Okay, we got grass green. I'm just going to use this for all my colors here. Okay, so grass green. Boom. We're just laying it on. And I'm keeping it in the cutout here because it just holds everything in, sort of. Again, this is a go in the one direction type of thing. All the cardstock I'm using right now, the die cuts, is the watercolor paper, hot press watercolor paper. And again, you can use cold. The difference is it's just got more texture. You're going to have more dimples, so to speak, in the paper. But it is 100% cotton, so I do recommend that. I don't. You're not going to get terrible results, but it depends on what you're really doing when you go with a student grade watercolor paper. It's definitely worth it, and that's why I found that the Strathmore 500 series and the Altenew watercolor paper is great, and it's affordable because they're cotton, and the biggest thing is that it's affordable. Okay, so spruce. Just dabbing it on. I don't need this to be perfect. I don't need it to be perfectly colored in or anything. A rainforest. And it looks like a hot mess right now, but it's, once we pull it out of there, it'll look better. Okay, now this is where I'm going to put in a little warm breeze. Don't need a ton. And it's always good to have a little variation in your leaves. So this is what my first two look like. A little different, each of them. One of them I stippled on. One of them I brushed on. We've got our die cut, just some white cardstock, 100 pound. This is Simon Says Stamp Sea Glass, and I used Morning Mist and our script stamp from Hero Arts. This is the script bold prints, and then here I die cut and embossed with our Tufted embossing folder, our centerpiece here, just to give it a little bit of extra something. So I'm going to put some liquid glue on the back of this. And generally, when I'm adhering layers together, I prefer double-sided adhesive, because if you've ever had the glue lines, these squiggle lines that we're doing here on your panel, it's because it's liquid glue. You can't control that. You can smooth it out probably, but who's doing that? I'm not. Okay. But in this case, the liquid glue is a good idea because then it'll give you a chance to move it around. Okay, let's line this up a little bit better here in the back. And you can see I stamped it twice. One was crooked and the other one I just wasn't paying attention and stamped it the same way again. Stamped on the same side. Okay, let's use this. Get our glue off there. All right. Okay. Now this piece of fun foam, double-sided adhesive on both sides to make it easy, and cut that out. Line that up on there. All right. Next, laying down our foliage. Okay. Get that piece out of there. And I'm just going to kind of crisscross them. You know, if you need every nook and cranny, the best thing is to lay down your initial, trim it away, you know, glue it down and then trim away, like we're going to do here, and then you can tuck pieces in. Just kind of a little V there. So if you did it this way, it would kind of look like that. And let's start with one and just I'm going to flip it back and throw some glue on them. Actually, they don't need to be on all the pieces. Now, you can use some press and seal here, but I don't want to pull all that out. I'm lazy sometimes when I craft. I like to make things difficult on myself, I guess. Okay. Let's grab this. Bring it up here. Okay. And we'll glue down those other pieces once we get everything squared away. We just want to have most of them. All right. All right, perfect. Okay. Let's grab our scissors. Now there's probably going to be some hang off of like our lilies and stuff. That'll be up to you if you want to trim them away. I'll see what it looks like if I decide to do that. But if you don't, then just use a larger envelope. You can use an A6 envelope and that'll allow you to be able to all right, fit everything in without having to trim stuff away. Okay, so let's do our lilies. Just a little glue. And of course, if you place it right, you don't have to take anything. You don't have to trim anything away. Sorry, sometimes I can't think when I'm trying to place stuff. Okay. All right, now we can trim up some leaves here and tuck them in, see where they need to go. Oh, let's get some glue on that guy. Make a mess while we're at it. Good thing about needle tips, you can get them in just about anywhere. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's tuck a leaf up top here. Go. See if there's anywhere else. Probably tuck in some of these guys that we trimmed off. And that'll do. Not too bad. I think we'll leave it at that. All right. And Wedding Day Blessings. Again, that's from the Greetery, and I just used some VersaFine Clair Nocturne. And I do have some foam strips, 1/8 of an inch on the back of this. This you could probably do 1/4 inch strip if you have of the foam. I like that. I think that came out nice. Some nice shimmer, pretty ink blending. Okay. A little double-sided adhesive. Put that on the back. We'll throw it on an A2 side folding card base. And that's going to wrap it up. I probably should just... It's a tricky thing about double-sided adhesive. All right. There you go, my friends. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Be sure and check the description box below for all the products used and leave us a comment. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you have a fantastic day and I'll catch you in the next video.